Welcome again, and in this video part 3 we have reassembled the drone and everything is strapped up. I have my camera and everything is fastened, including my transmitter right under here. You can see a little tie strap here. Now we have Betaflight configurator and we're using it online. And the reason why I'm using it online, like I said in the first video, everything is always updated. Now with Betaflight configurator online, I've also installed all drivers like in the first video, and I've used ELRS driver fixer when needed. So my drone right now is basically considered fresh. Consider that it's just out of the box. I've just built it and now it's time to do the first thing, connect it to the computer. Now if you're lucky enough, when you connect it, it automatically works. That's when drivers are installed, therefore you are good to go. So the first thing I will do is make sure my flight controller is working properly. So it's connected and this specific drone has light saying that yes, it's connected, and this orange light here that's flashing right here is usually solid red when it's connected and binded to a receiver. Now yeah, everything there is okay. The next thing that has to be done is to install your firmware. So I can clearly see that my drone is rotating. I can clearly see that the drone is facing the right way, so that drone is facing forward, and there's no other way around it because on the board the camera wires go directly to the cameras. Wherever the cameras go, that'll be the front of the drone. Yeah, so that's generally it. The frame also can only go one way, so you can never really be wrong. So if I look at it like that, this is my drone right here, and this is it facing upwards, and that's all that really matters. Now besides checking out it's turning around, and it is, now I'm going to go and install my firmware. So considering, like I said, this is a brand new drone I've just reassembled, I've just built, and I've never installed a firmware before. That's generally the process that you need to go through. So on firmware flasher, here you can see our drone here, and it's in normal mode. So right now there it's in normal bootloader mode. I'm going to click on detect. I also have internet access. If you do not have internet access, detect will not work for you. Automatically it detects it as a Kakut H7, and it is a Holybro H7, and it is the latest drivers for it. Sorry, this is the latest firmware for it. One thing at bear in mind is based on your receiver, you need to know whether or not you have a CRSF, which is Crossfire receiver, or you have a S-bus. There's so many different types of receivers. They have F-ports, they have I-bus, and there's so many different types, but I'm using a CRSF receiver. Sometimes it selects S-bus for you, and your telemetry protocol, you usually leave it empty. But if you do not follow your stuff properly, you don't know your receiver properly, sorry, your transmitter properly, then that's going to be a problem. So I know that my receiver uses Crossfire, and automatically Crossfire is one of the easiest things to use. The telemetry always binds, it always works properly. The protocols are usually always the same. Now for OSD, I'm going to leave it as, I'm going to put it as analog, because I am using an analog drone, and my motor protocol will be D-shot. Now next thing I have to also bear in mind is, do I have all accessories installed here? This is the comprehensive part. So I'm going to have Acro Trainer, I'm going to have pin IO. Now pin IO is for pin input outputs. Without pin IO, you could plug in or you can solder on different accessories like GPS, LED strip. even your receiver, you can't, sorry, even your transmitter, you cannot plug in these devices or connect it to the board, solder it to the board without pin IO. Those pins, like I said in the second video, the last video, pin the pin outs is basically saying just like pin IO, pin input and output. Those are all pins that are important, and the firmware can only recognize the accessories that are connected to these pins only when pin IO is into the firmware of the board. Now VTX, I have a VTX, and my VTX will be this right here. So my VTX is connected to my board, so yes, I have VTX, and I need VTX configurator on my Betaflight. So here you can see different things like battery continue. They have camera control. If your camera has more wires where you can control it. There's chip if you want your drone to be chipping. There's so many different things. There's LED strips, but I don't have LED strips, so that's fine. But my board is compatible with LED strips. It's also compatible with GPS, and GPS will allow your drone. And this is just an answer to most people's questions, because you know FPV drones, you do not have that hover effect naturally. You can't just stay on hover. But with GPS, you can have a GPS module installed on your drone, and that GPS module will allow you to have compass. Compass will then allow your drone to know are you tilted and what direction you're facing, and that compass will allow you to have that hover effect where your drone can just stay on hover in the air. So if you yawn to your right, it will go back and just hover. If you pitch forward, then when you release your pace, you go back to the hover. So that's generally what GPS does, and there's so many different things here that you can actually do. So if I want to put on Racing Pro or Race Pro, then therefore I can put on Race Pro. I can also put on position hold, which is what the compass does. If you have a GPS installed, this is what the compass does. You have position hold, and that's something that allows you to hold your position in the air and balance your drone. You balance your drone with your GPS, and you can have position hold via GPS also. I don't have GPS, so I can't use position hold. Now we don't have wings. It's not a plane. We don't have wings, but if you're using a plane, you can also use wings on that there. So this is basically all the configurations that's needed. Then I'm going to click on load firmware online. It's going to download. Or if you don't have internet and you have the offline version, therefore you can simply just download the firmware online and take it home and install it offline by clicking load firmware local. Then you select your firmware file, which I already have. Here it is. This is my Kakut H7 mini. I don't even know that's a mini, but yeah. But from there I can click on load firmware online. It's already installed, so it's already downloaded, and then I can flash firmware. But prior to flashing firmware, I'll go in expert mode, and I will click on erase full chip, and usually you turn on no boot sequence. But I've already flashed the firmware. I will not be flashing it again. It takes not too long though. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes, or sometimes more than 10 minutes. But I'm not going to flash it again because I have already flashed it with exactly those protocols right here. The next step, so right here I'm going to connect my drone. After you flash your drone, the next step is put your drone on a flat surface. Make sure it's fully flat, and then you calibrate your accelerometer. So I'm going to turn my drone facing my computer. You're going to be straight ahead of me. I'm going to calibrate my accelerometer. So here you can clearly see that the drone I have my drone tilted a little bit up, and I have it now tilted all the way down. So when I meant up, I tilted up like this, and I can clearly see that my drone, the green arrow is facing upwards. Therefore it tells me yes, that the green arrow faces upwards just like the drone is facing upwards. And you can clearly see the camera here is facing forward. So if I tilt it a little bit, you can see that this camera is facing forward just like the green arrow. When I put the drone down, it should at least be, right now that you can see it's calibrated. So you can see usually you get a pitch of 0 or 0.1. I will go with a maximum of 0.1. So if not, I say go to at least 0.2. I'll shift that drone around. Now I have antennas under the leg right here, as you can see, but it also plays around because I can't really raise that down flat. So what I'll just do, I just usually just keep it down flat and just work with it from here. So I'm going to calibrate it one more time. Okay, and it's perfect there, it's okay there. Now the next thing you have to bear in mind, is go into your ports, and here you can see UART6 has been it has been enabled. So UART6 is your receiving end for like I said in my last video, it's for my transmitter. So that UART6, which is that transmitter wire on the board, that pin IO, that allows me to have my transmitter enabled, and I open that port. So the arrows on the board and the T's on the board, or the flight controller, I would say, those are your ports there. And automatically, so the telemetry output, it will be, so you have UART6 right there. So this is UART6, and automatically those things will be disabled because I'm using Crossfire CSRF. But if I was using S-Bus, therefore it will get a good idea. Okay, I'm using S-Bus, and then I have to select S-Bus from here. Scroll down, select smart port. Smart port will be used for S-Bus. So here you can see for configurator, I have that port open for USB. My USB port works because my drone is connected. And like I was saying in my last video, when configuring, you do not need to put your receiver on T6 and R6. You can use any one, just like my VTX uses R3 in the last video. You can put it on instead of R3, sorry, instead of T3, you can put it on T4 or T5. But when you put it on T4 and T5, automatically you have to enable, so automatically it will enable T4 or T5 sometimes. If not, therefore, if you have T4 here, or if you have T4 on your board, whatever is on your board, it will be available to you because the firmware matches what ports are available. So if I put on T4, I need to enable T4. So if I put my receiver on T4 on the board, therefore I have to enable T4 instead of T6. So that's generally how it works. My transmitter right there, my receiver. Now the next thing is configurations. I usually just go ahead with going on presets. And when I'm on presets, there are so many different drones that I can actually get a good idea of. So here we have a 3/4 inch drone. It's a very, very tiny drone. It uses a 4-inch blade, and I use a 5-inch blade, so I will not go with that. This one uses a 6-inch blade. I'm not going to go with that. I have the Karat Race. It's way different from mine, but that preset, I can always select that preset, and when I run that preset, so here give me all the options, video links and so on. So when I run that preset, it then going to have a different view here. It will have that modern view instead of having just a little rectangle with an arrow on it. Sometimes you'll get that. So the preset, by the time you install your presets, by loading them, that works for you, and then your drone will automatically reboot after updating that preset. So then right now there, I'm going to go to what's missing right here. On configurations, I'm not going to be doing anything right here. I'm going to leave it on 4 Hz for my 5-inch drone. I'm going to leave my gyro update frequency on 8 Hz. Now that this frequency, they take a little bit of power, but I'm just going to leave it like that because it doesn't really affect the drone. All the drones that I'm working with, I'm just leaving it on that. So here my camera angle, I'm going to leave camera angle like that. I'm going to leave it on 0. I'm not going to do anything right here. I'm not going to do anything whatsoever, because if I use camera right here and I've used camera angle, therefore if I have camera for control my camera, if I had a pin IO for control my camera, therefore I'll have to put that camera angle right here, put it inside of this here, and also for the system to have an idea what angle the camera is at the time and what angle it shifts it to. So here you can see everything that's enabled here, and everything looks great. Everything is enabled, and that's everything that's important. The battery low indicator, battery critically low indicator, all these things are important for the beeping of the drone, and that's for basically beep indicators on the description. The next thing that you're going to be doing is your receiver, to connect your receiver, and that there is important. So in the next video, I'll be telling you how to connect a receiver, and also the subsequent video will be all about motors, and then we'll be moving to the video transmitter. Now the motors, on the other hand, you have a good understanding as to what direction your motors are turning. Are they turning the right direction? If not, are they reversed? What are they with the right settings? And also, are the props on the right way? All that will be coming under motors. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you have not subscribed. So stay tuned to what's next.